Democrats. My name is Nancy Tong. I'm the chair of the San Francisco Democratic Party. Welcome to tonight's special committee meeting. I think you have all received agendas with respect to the committee's business tonight. I do want to say that it is, for me, with some sadness that I will not be chairing the meeting tonight. I'm in some discussions with my employer with respect to my role in this committee. While I do believe that my work here is necessary and that I do have a First Amendment right to political speech and activity, that determination and the discussions between myself and my office will not conclude before tonight. So the work here is too important, and it's too important to be centered around the voices of survivors. And so I will be here as a member of the public during the public sessions, and I will be here for support during the closed sessions, but not in the closed session. And I do hope that everyone will be respectful of the space tonight with the work that we are doing here. It's too important to wait. And so my last act here will be to appoint member Lily Ho as the acting chair of this committee. And acting chair, I turn it over to you.
Thank you so much, Chair Nancy Tong. I first want to thank everyone here for being here. Your presence here ensures that our work is accountable and thorough, and that it has participation from members of the survivor community, witnesses, and providers, and the community as Democrats as a whole in San Francisco. So thank you so much for taking the time out to be here with us. I want to acknowledge and thank Chair Nancy Tong for taking the swift action of creating this committee, this special committee to address sexual harassment, abuse, and assaults. Her leadership has made it clear that the Democratic leadership does not condone this behavior in the Democratic Party. This is just one of the first of several meetings, and in the letter that Chair Tong wrote to everybody published yesterday, plots out how we do plan to start off these series of meetings, first from hearing from survivors, and also gathering information, doing research, and ultimately finding some way to create some sort of structural change in the Democratic Party, as we have the purview to here in San Francisco as much as we can. And this is my personal pledge to you as well. This issue is very important to me personally. And I am actually very proud and honored to be amongst colleagues who also take this issue very seriously. We also have on hand today a couple support. When you walked in, you were given flyers for resources. I hope you can take that and use it and share it amongst anybody you feel needs to see it. These resources are always going to be available, but we wanted to be sure you had it on hand with you today. Additionally, we have two people here. Denise Caramanjo, she serves as a confidential advocate at UCSF, where she provides client-centered services to uphold the dignity of survivors of sexual and gender-based harassment, interpersonal and sexual violence, and stalking. Denise is a licensed psychotherapist with a specialty in trauma. She has supported survivors of violence and harassment for more than 25 years in the Bay Area, and she is on hand for any survivors that need support. We also have available 2 private rooms so that your conversations can be private with her. We also have on hand Alicia Justin Cook. She's from the Cooperative of Restraining Order Clinic. She's a Marcy's Law attorney and helps survivors navigate the legal system. She'll be on hand to provide any type of legal services needed for survivors, and also to provide information on how anyone can get assistance on obtaining civil restraining orders. They're sitting here in the room with us here today. Thank you. And actually at this time, I would like to invite Alicia up to speak and say a few words.
Hi, my name is Alicia Justin Cook. I'm with the Cooperative Restraining Order Clinic. Everybody knows us as CROC. And we are a legal services agency here in San Francisco that seeks to empower survivors by making sure that they understand what their legal rights and options are, and doing so in a confidential setting that's governed by the attorney-client privilege. We seek to empower survivors to understand what's right for them, to make sure that their voices are heard and are informed by their legal rights and options, and doing so by providing assistance with civil restraining orders, so domestic violence restraining orders for domestic violence, sexual assault, and non-intimate partner restraining orders, civil harassment restraining orders. We also have the Marcy Project, which I am the attorney for, which provides victims with crime victim representation in a criminal setting. So a survivor in a criminal case isn't entitled to counsel. The people represent the state, and the defense is entitled to an attorney, but the victim does not have a right to counsel otherwise. So we ensure that their voice does not get lost in the criminal system and that their rights are protected and understood.
Thank you so much, Alicia.
Thank you.
I just realized I forgot to do a roll call.
Member Barnes.
Present.
Member Chandler. Present. Member Hyken.
Present.
Member Ho.
Present.
Member Mahmood. Present. Member Nguyen. Present. Members of that.
Thank you. At this time, I would like to invite Denise Caramagno to come up to speak and hold a healing moment for us.
Is it okay if I address the audience?
Yes, please.
Hello. My name is Denise Caramagno, and I am a survivor and a survivor advocate, and not very tech savvy. That's why I can't retire. I need tech support. I wanted to say that we're here not just to listen, but also to validate, to support, to heal, that to seek accountability. I want to acknowledge the courage of the survivors in the room. You're not alone. We're here as a community. We are grateful for your courage. You don't owe your story to anyone. We're thankful for whatever you choose to share. This is how we shift the culture. And please feel free to check in with me for confidential support at any time if you would like to do so. So I was going to lead us in just a centering exercise. You can participate or not participate. If you would like to close your eyes, you could do that now. And take a deep breath and just pay attention to your breath as it goes in and out. Notice any thoughts and let them pass. And continue to just pay attention to your breath. When you're ready, we'll take a deep breath in through your nose, fill up your lungs and your belly, hold it a little bit, and then let it go through your mouth. Feel your connection to the ground. Feel your connection to your ancestors, to anyone who supported you to be here in this moment. Continue to pay attention to your breath as you breathe in and out. And then one more deep breath through your nose. Fill yourself up, hold it as long as you like. And when you're ready to let it go out through your mouth. Thank you for being here. Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Denise. And again, Denise and Alicia are available throughout this entire meeting for anybody who wants to seek their counsel. And from here, we'll go to public comment.
If you'd like to make public comment, please fill out the comment card available at the table as you entered. I will call speakers in the order that I received comment cards. Note that this body takes all public comment during this item. Each member of the public will have 2 minutes to address this committee. Associate members, including club presidents, board chairs, members of the Democratic State Central Committee, Assembly District chairs, and regional director have 4 minutes to address this committee. I will give you a 60-second and a 30-second notice. Thank you in advance for your patience. I would also like to reiterate that this is general public comment, and if you would like to provide testimony on the topic of sexual assault and harassment by members of the Democratic political community, you may do so during items 3 and 4. Per the guidelines that were circulated in advance of this meeting and when you entered this room, the chair retains the discretion to terminate a statement being made in violation of these meeting guidelines and procedures, or defer a statement to items 3 or 4. First, I'll call up Susan Pfeiffer, followed by Henny Kelly and Tim Durden.
Take it out and bring it down. I hadn't planned to be first, and I wasn't sure I was going to speak in public comment, but I'm probably going to say something a lot of people may say. I am a victim of rape, and I'm using the R word because it's the hardest thing to say. If you have been raped, you know your recovery period when you can say that word out loud. It was 45 years ago. So, and part of my recovery was I goaded the city, the Department of Public Health, into improving the services available for victims of rape. There really wasn't anything. And I reached out to them, and basically, I could pay for therapy myself, but that was it. And I didn't think I needed that. So I did my own, but I challenged the head of the department. He said, "What is it you want? Come on down and meet with me." And that triggered me. So I wrote a document of what I thought the city should do, the way they should handle it. And I don't think it was just me, but I have to say that most of what I wrote has been put in effect. And I think the city has really good services now. The hardest thing for a woman is to say the word rape, particularly in front of men. They freak out. They feel guilty that it's their fault. And so that's also part of the healing, is being able to talk to other people and not have them make you feel guilty for creating stress for them. But it is something that you can recover from. I was assaulted by a stranger. I was out walking in my neighborhood one night. So it can happen to anyone. But I'm proof you can survive and go on and lead a happy and healthy life from it.
Thank you for your comments. Henny Kelly.
Hello, my name is Henny Kelly. I'm the Regional Director of District 7, and I would like to speak. I'm a victim of rape. I can't count how many years it was since then. I'm 82 now. I was 15 then. It was somebody I knew, somebody I cared about. And I never talked about it because I didn't know how to talk about it. And the one thing that I know now is I became a teacher, and I worked with, as I call, hormones with feet, middle school and early high school. And I wrote, I did family life, English, and Holocaust, all the fluff courses. And basically, I talked to my students about what happened to me. And every day when they left my room, I said to them and shook their hands, learn how to say no. Learn how to take no for an answer. Don't get anyone pregnant. And don't give a sexually transmitted disease to care about. And the interesting thing that I saw from young women was that they blamed themselves and not the perpetrator. They did not know how to say no. I taught them to say no. I think that is extremely important. Now, as the regional director, I would like to say I am very happy that you have this committee. I worked with the Democratic Party on the main code of conduct. And I have checked with some of you and asked, are you using that code of conduct as part of what you are doing? And I see you're saying yes. One of the things is that every club has to say, we go to this code of conduct. And every regional DCCC has to do that also. I have 4 minutes, right? Okay. I would like to tell you that anything you are going to add to that program is important. And I will take that to the party and make sure that it is put in the code of conduct that goes to every club. And I will make sure that people understand how to say no and how to take no for an answer. Thank you.
Next up is Tim Durney, followed by Denise Heisenrotter, so apologies for your name incorrect, followed by Michael Roquet. Tim? No. We'll move on to Denise, followed by Michael, and then Sophia.
Hi y'all, how you doing? Thank you to the DCCC for hosting this meeting, and thank you to everybody that's here. If you don't know me, I'm Denise Heisenrotter, longtime board member of SFWPC. And my first organizing job in San Francisco was all the way back in 2005. And at that time, there were amazing women, like many of the women that helped put together SFWPC, that would take young women under their wing and make sure we knew who we didn't want to end up in a dark corner with. 20 years ago. For many years after that, I was doing the same thing for young women, for people of color, for queer folks coming behind me. In the last few years, I've gotten sick and tired of having to make phone calls to leaders around the city to let them know that this person or that person is a part of this whisper network of individuals who are problematic and continue to be able to advance and maintain leadership positions in Democratic parties across the city and leadership positions, and it really just boggles my mind that we still, 20 years later, are having conversations about whether or not this is a problem. We know this is a problem. We're tired of it. We're fed up. The SFWPC board, with folks in this room and communities across the state, have been asking for movement on this. A lot of you are new members. We're really hopeful and optimistic that you are actually going to move forward and make sure that these egregious behaviors for men and women alike, people of color, are come to a halt and come to an end, because too many folks that come into our spaces cannot feel safe. And that's simply unacceptable. We must do better, we can do better, and we're all here to work on this together. And I really, really hope that y'all are gonna push hard and push on the other leaders. We're all Democrats for the most part in this city, to make sure that this type of behavior ends now. Thanks, y'all.
For comments. Next up is Michael, followed by Sophia and Dari, Paul, I'm
We all need one. Thanks.
Who would have thought?
My name is Michael Rupe. I am a co-vice president of membership for the Latinx Democratic Club here in San Francisco. This is a very personal conversation for me. I spent 10 years of my life doing rape and domestic violence prevention up at City College. We educated to provide resources to students to talk about the cycles of violence, to identify unhealthy relationships. And in that process, we also talked about how men versus women experience sexual violence differently, and how different communities experience sexual violence differently. Because there are so many contexts, and in order to be effective, and if we care about sexual violence, there are some very clear do's and don'ts. We have to treat it seriously, and there's a couple things that I would recommend to this committee and ask that you take seriously. To begin with, to recognize that any committee not having Latino and African Americans as part of the committee will not necessarily adequately address the cultural nuances of the Latino and Black communities, and who have historically borne the brunt of criminal injustices in the justice system. The other part that concerns me about this, because what can happen is we can trivialize this discussion. It can be weaponized. That does more harm to survivors. Myself, as a survivor, I don't want to see that happen. It also behooves the committee to take a look at having folks, forgive me, but if you were running for public office, I see a conflict of interest. And it doesn't convey the seriousness of the committee to not look at the makeup of your committee. And so I ask that you look at it, maybe make some other considerations. If we care about ending sexual violence, we'll work together to do it, but this has to be an unquestionable process. Thank you for your time.
Hi, everyone. Hi, my name is Sophia Handari. This committee represents a positive move towards ensuring perpetrator accountability, including those who enable them, and prioritizing the voices of survivors. Collective efforts to combat sexual violence and harassment must bridge partisan divide and prioritize inclusivity to ensuring all survivor voices are heard and represented. Survivors will not want to speak to a committee they don't trust the integrity of, including myself. To ensure this committee's integrity, no person in this committee should be allowed who has aided abusers in avoiding responsibility or seeking leniency for abusers. No persons in this committee should be running for office, as to ensure that they do not exploit the situation for personal gain, rather than focusing and ensuring justice for survivors and victims of abuse. The committee should place emphasis on including diverse members from the community to ensure representation and inclusivity. It's lacking brown and Black women representation. And how is it possible to establish a committee with no representations from one of the impacted Latino communities who have suffered at the hands of these latest abusers? Also, this committee technically doesn't need to just have DCCC members. You can get, I believe you can get community members in the committee to join.
Next up is Paul Aguilar, followed by Alan Burradell, and then Heather McCarthy.
Good evening, members of the committee. My name is Paul Aguilar. I'm the Vice President of Communications of the San Francisco Latinx Democratic Club. But I'm here as a survivor of rape. It was a date rape when I was 16 years old, and it was likely the cause of my becoming HIV positive. The formation of this committee is something that probably should have happened a long time ago, and I'm applauding the fact that it's being formed now. However, I am wondering why there are active political candidates sitting on the committee. I believe there should be no active political candidates on this committee who could be politicizing survivor stories for their political gain. including any attempt to exploit any allegations of sexual misconduct as a means of political maneuvering to attack opponents. Additionally, I would like to encourage implementing safeguards that prevent an environment that fosters rumors and innuendo. In our society, people are innocent until they are proven guilty. Thank you.
Good evening, Alan Baradell. I just want to briefly and simply say I'm glad this committee is here. I wish you luck in your work. I think the makeup of the committee is appropriate. I don't think that we have to have a racial match to represent the community. And I think it's okay to have candidates on. We have you here on the DCCC for a reason. We trust your judgment. So I support this committee as it's sitting, and I wish you the best. Okay? Thank you.
Your comments. Next up is Heather McCarthy, followed by Zach Shaheen and Nadia Rahman.
Hi, my name is Heather McCarty, and I'm a rape survivor. I just really wanted to thank you all for taking on sexual harassment and sexual assault in the politics in San Francisco. This committee should have happened a long time ago, and it probably hasn't, because making the choice to do this isn't easy, and it isn't consequence-free. So I thank you all, each and every one of you, for participating. And I want to thank all the survivors who are going to share their experiences tonight. It's a hard thing to do, and I just want you to know that you're not alone. People stand with you, and your courage will hopefully make us all stronger. So thank you.
I want to echo that I'm hopeful at the establishment of this committee. I think it's something that is certainly long overdue, as many people are saying, and I just want to simply add my voice to all those that are here and all those that are adding their voices remotely and in other parts of the city. That, you know, I hope that this is a committee that operates with the utmost grace and the utmost care, because the lip service that people have alluded to, that they feel that survivors who shared their stories have been met with, is something that's incredibly real. And I have a lot of people that are close to me that have worked alongside me in San Francisco politics over the last 5 years that have been met with, at best, oftentimes silence when trying to come forward with stories of abuse and harassment, and at worst, being alienated and facing even more serious, personal harmful effects. So I hope that this committee acknowledges the level of respect and attention to those realities that's going to be required for it to be successful. Thank you.
Hi everyone. I'm really glad that this committee has come together. It is very long overdue. I would like to say there's specific things that I'd like to see come out of the committee. One is definitely a code of conduct. Two, related to the code of conduct, is a method for enforcement. That's also guidelines for the Democratic clubs that are chartered through the DCCC. And then third, and this might be tricky, but other organizations like California Young Democrats have already done this, is to figure out how to factor abuse, assault, and harassment into your endorsement recommendations, and how you consider endorsements and in that process in general. There's a lot of important things that the DCCC does. Your endorsements are the most consequential, and in terms of changing culture in politics and getting people who are running for office and in politics to take this seriously. All of those things are important, but figuring out the endorsement piece is the most important. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Next we have Sahar, followed by Sahar, followed by Edie. Yeah.
Any committee not having Latinos,
Mike said.
I'm not speaking.
Oh, it's off, sorry. Apologies.
Okay, any committee not having Latinos and African Americans as part of the committee will not adequately address the cultural nuances of the Latino and Black community, who have historically borne the brunt of the criminal and justice system, and instead slant blame unfavorably towards them through inherent racial biases. Many of our community have been unfairly incarcerated and even killed because the presumption of innocence was not awarded to them in the public. There should be no candidates on the special subcommittee politicizing survivor stories for political gain, as well as any attempt to exploit allegations of sexual assault as a means of political maneuvering to silence opponents is reprehensible and should not be allowed. We encourage implementing processes that safeguard against the misuse of baseless or politicized allegations and the creation of the environment that fosters rumors and innuendo. A closed session should hold the same guidelines in item 3 as in item 4 as well. How can the committee or the chair ensure the confidentiality of the information that is provided actually stays confidential to protect survivors? Will the closed session be recorded, and what form will be recorded in? If not, why not?
Hello, my name is Iyad. I have a business on Valencia Street. I am a small minority of Middle Eastern. I depend on the Latino community to kind of back us up and be the force. And I'm just hoping that this not will divide the Latino community, and just to take justice and just to come together. I don't want them to break up. I don't want them to fight each other. It's a lot of people out there that want to break the Latino community. I would hate to see that. So Latino get together and just figure it out without outsiders interfering. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Conclude public comment.
Thank you. Thank you everyone for your comments and for sharing your stories. I want to reemphasize what Chair Nancy Tung had mentioned about what the intent and objective of this meeting is for today. Today, we are here to make space for survivors, and we want to understand the scope of sexual harassment and abuse and assault in SF's political community. We are making the space for survivors and witnesses and providers to share stories with us, both in public as well as closed sessions. We know how difficult it is to share these stories, and that's specifically why we have a closed door session for people to feel that, so that people can feel comfortable and speak freely. The meetings that will be in closed session, that's item number 4, everything will be confidential. We will not be recording those meetings. Only general or light notes will be taken with the consent of the person speaking to us. And as to item number 3, which is where we're going to hear for general public comment on information gathering, we set up a set of guidelines and procedures for how we will be handling this part of it. As we all understand, this is a very difficult conversation, and I'm in agreement with a lot of the public speakers who spoke today, who recognize how volatile these conversations can be, and the implications, and how they can impact people. And so for that reason, you guys were all handed a flyer as you walked in that stated the guidelines and procedures here. One, we are only going to hear public comment on the topics of sexual assault and harassment, specifically to this Democratic political community. We do not wish for your public comment to include naming specific individuals, hearsay, which means not first-person accounts, nor first-person witness accounts, cases that have been previously criminally investigated and closed, and we will not tolerate any type of name-calling or personal attacks. And as chair, I retain the discretion to defer a statement to the closed session or to terminate a statement based on violation of those guidelines. We want, again, to ensure that this space is safe, a safe space to share these difficult stories. And with that, we'll begin to take, sorry about that. In addition to being here today in person to share these stories, we created an online submission for these statements. And again, these statements will abide by the same parameters and guidelines. We did ask specifically on those online forums for if people wanted to share their statements with us or have them be read here today. And so Vice Chair Emma Heiken will be reading out loud to you a couple of those statements that were submitted to us online with the consent to be shared by the people who submit them.
Thank you, Acting Chair Lowe.
Can you hear me now?
So, the purpose that we're all here is to give voice to survivors. And as has been said in public comment and in other spaces, everyone's in a different space and place in their journey of surviving a horrific event. And for some people that means they want to tell their story, but they're not ready to say it in person. Maybe they never will be, they don't have to be. And so, in order to give that voice, I'm offering my breath and my voice to those who are not able to join us and share today. So we have two accounts that I will read that have been redacted in certain ways to abide by the procedures that Member Ho laid out. The first one is, I was threatened by a coworker on a campaign I was working on after refusing to rekindle our relationship after he broke up with me over text. I think my boss knew what was happening and intentionally did nothing, hoping I would get beaten up. Every time I stepped up into a leadership position or spoke with confidence, he looked mad. Eventually, I was fired. And after that, it became mysteriously hard for me to get even an interview for another job. Last I heard, my old boss now works for a company in the political department. Second one is, I was at a bar in 2018 at a campaign kickoff when an elected official put his hand on my shoulder and then moved it down to grope me. So those are the two that were submitted online. In the interest of collection of public information, I also want to comment on the survey that the San Francisco Women's Political Committee conducted recently that was a survey of exactly what we're talking about here today, of instances of sexual assault and harassment in political spaces in San Francisco. Pardon me. So this survey had 80 responses. 80 people opted to fill out this survey, 50% of whom said that they were survivors. 50%. And 50% identified as allies. So I'm grateful that so many people were willing to share that, and so many people were willing to identify as allies as well. But that's not acceptable. 50% is 50% too high. And I encourage everyone, my colleagues here on this committee, and members of the audience to review this survey results I would love to see more, it had a very quantitative approach, and that is very necessary. I would love to hear more qualitative data collection, and that's part of what we're gonna do today. But I'm really grateful for the San Francisco Women's Political Committee for doing this survey, for collecting this research, and for helping us understand the scope of the problem so we can move forward.
Thank you, and with that, we'll move on with the item number 3.
First up is Delta Medina, followed by Ruth Ferguson, and Alondra Garcia, and Chelsea Frank.
Hello, my name is Delta Medina. Hello, my name is Delta Medina, and I am co-president of the San Francisco Latinx Democratic Club, but I'm also here as a human being. Too many of our political spaces in San Francisco revolve around alcohol, revolve around late nights, revolve around a lack of boundaries. Too often, so many folks have really no system to be able to tap into, so I am grateful this committee is being created. I have questions about how the committee has been created and the makeup of it all. That is a critique that I have, that I've submitted, that is part of the public comment that some of my fellow members have made. But I do want to acknowledge the fact that there is no system in San Francisco for anybody to come forward and be politically involved without having to go through a system that involves patronage, that involves a lack of training, that involves a lack of boundaries, that involves a lack of anything. You've essentially had to be created as an HR system at the last minute when we've had a history of more than 20 years of people being abused when all they want to do is be a good citizen in the city. And so if we are to be a San Francisco that looks out into the rest of the country, I am looking forward to being in spaces and places where people feel safe, where my young daughter can come in and feel safe. But the reality is that I am not, it always baffles me how we got to this place when we fully know what the scope of the issues have been. We've all heard the stories. The reality is now, it is what are you going to do? What is the responsibility that we're gonna undertake? What are the systems we're gonna put into place to make sure that people are trained properly, that people are engaged in properly, and there's a set of systems that are safe and equitable, and that also take into consideration restorative justice. So thank you so much.
Next up is Ruth Ferguson.
Hi, my name is Ruth Ferguson, and I'm the co-founder of SHIP, Stop Sexual Harassment in Politics. In April 2022, while on the board of SFWPC, and because of their critical support, I made the painful decision to publicly share my own story of sexual harassment, discrimination, and retaliation after reporting misconduct as a staffer in the California legislature. The sexual harassment I experienced from my supervisor was pervasive and at times excruciating, but the retaliation is what completely debilitated me. It's what made me entirely question my ability to remain in politics. I got my start in local politics when I was a freshman in high school in my small rural hometown when the KKK moved its Northwest headquarters to my region and hate crime spiked. All of us have our own stories about the moments that compelled us to get involved. I've since spent over half my life working in official and unofficial roles in local politics and government. My commitment has never just been my day job or my volunteer work. It's core to who I am and how I view my place in this world. All of that felt like it was ripped away from me when the retaliation began for properly reporting misconduct in my office. Ripped away from me was my sense of self, my understanding of agency and belonging in politics, and any feeling of safety in a field that means so much to me. And then there was the investigation, which was disturbingly invasive and unproductive. Despite photo and text evidence, corroborating stories from our interns, or the fact that this was an open secret about my office, none of it mattered. Instead, the very people whose responsibility it was to keep me safe turned and looked the other way when they could have done this simple, life-altering action of holding their friends and their colleagues accountable, sparing me years of acute turmoil and a lifetime of financial and health impacts that research shows follow survivors their entire lives. This body has the opportunity to create systems, guidelines, and mechanisms to protect future generations of political volunteers, leaders, staffers, elected officials. All of us suffer from a system of ineptitude. All of us. But we can and we must do something about it, or we will continue to see these cycles of unfettered sexual violence, harassment, discrimination, intimidation, and retaliation play out for generations to come. I implore everyone in this room or otherwise to stop the partisanship that we're experiencing. If we don't, we will squander this opportunity to meaningfully pursue justice in the name of finger pointing. It is not one camp or another that bears the responsibility for the sexual violence and the lack of accountability we are seeing in San Francisco politics, in California politics, and across the country. We are all responsible, and if we keep up this partisan blaming, we will accomplish nothing. I do not deserve that. We do not deserve that, and San Franciscans certainly do not deserve that. What we deserve is a meaningful, trauma-informed process to identify gaps in the San Francisco Democratic Party's effort to address all forms of serious misconduct. I look forward to providing my own expertise, not only through my lived experience as a survivor of sexual trauma in politics, but also as a researcher and a policy advocate who has devoted thousands of hours focused on methods to improve transparency and accountability as it relates to reporting misconduct in politics and government. I know this work is hard and it's messy, but bringing this disturbing culture of sexual violence in politics out of the shadows, as this body has chosen to do, is the only way we will progress as a community. I want to thank this body deeply for addressing this issue with sincerity. I also want to encourage the body to work directly with its membership, with those who have expertise on this issue, and with survivors who continue to bravely share their stories for the greater good. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Hello, members of the SFDCCC and the San Francisco community. Today, I want to bring our attention to a critical issue that often remains in the shadows of our political discourse: sexual violence. It's a harrowing reality that affects far too many individuals, and its presence within the realm of politics is not an exception. When we discuss sexual violence in politics, we're not just talking about statistics or headlines. We're talking about real people whose lives have been shattered by abuse of power and betrayal of trust. Survivors of sexual violence deserve our unwavering support, compassion, and most importantly, justice. In addressing sexual violence in politics, we must adopt a survivor-centered approach. What does that mean? It means prioritizing the needs, the rights, and the voices of survivors every step of the way. It means creating safe spaces for survivors to come forward without fear of retaliation or disbelief. It means ensuring that perpetrators are held accountable for their actions, regardless of their status or influence. Being survivor-centered also requires us to dismantle the structures and systems that enable sexual violence to thrive. This includes challenging toxic power dynamics, promoting consent education, and fostering a culture of respect and equality. But our work doesn't stop there. It must also strive to create a political environment and culture that actively works to prevent sexual violence from occurring in the first place. This means implementing policies, procedures that promote transparency, accountability, and zero tolerance for harassment and abuse. Before delving into the importance of addressing sexual violence in politics, it's crucial to understand its multifaceted nature. Sexual violence isn't confined to physical acts alone. It encompasses a spectrum of abusive behaviors, including emotional, verbal, and mental abuse. As someone who has faced all of these being involved in the Democratic Party, I was told it was my fault. It was my fault for not speaking up. I did speak up. I was told that I was supposed to support our community members. Okay. I went to older Democratic Club board members and party leadership and was told nothing really could be done. When I was sexually harassed at the Los Angeles Convention last year, I was told to shake it off and continue my so-called advocacy. This so-called advocacy has been the only hope I have to make change for young individuals wanting to get involved with the party. And I want to make it a safe, supportive space for them. The party has failed me, but I will continue to fight for it to not fail those who have come after me. Addressing sexual violence in politics is not just a moral imperative, it's essential for the health of our democracy. When survivors are silenced or ignored, our political institutions lose their legitimacy and trust. By standing up for survivors and advocating for change, we are not only empowering individuals to reclaim their voices, but also strengthen the foundation of our democracy. Let us commit ourselves to being survivor-centered in our approach to addressing sexual violence in politics. Let us listen, believe, and support survivors as they navigate this difficult journey towards healing and justice. Together, I know we can create a future where sexual violence has no place in our politics and or society as a whole. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment.
Last is Chelsea Frank.
Great. Thank you. Thank you. Again, I mentioned that we are specifically having a closed door session so that the individuals who wish to speak to us and speak freely with us can do so in an intimate space. Actually, with that, I'll call a 10-minute break before we go into item number 4. And Moses, I believe you will be calling in people one at a time. Is that right? Okay, thank you. Yes.
Thank you for recognizing Chair Ho. My name is Michael Wynn. I just want to thank the speakers who came forward and gave their testimony. I know a lot of us are new to this body, and as a person who's new to politics generally in the past 5 years or so, it breaks my heart that we have to do this like this. And I'm so angry. I'm angry that we have to do this like this. It should not have come to this. And I want to say, if we do implement any procedures, we should do something like what New York City subway does. If you see something, say something.
That's right.
And it should not be hard, it should not be difficult, there should be no retaliation. When you see something, you say something. And that is something that just came over me because we need to prioritize people. So I just want to share that specifically my parents are refugees and my mom is a survivor of domestic violence, and I'm a survivor of domestic violence in the family unit, and it really frustrates me that we have to be here in this setting, but I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful that we can bridge our partisan divides or whatever you want to name it, because we as San Franciscan Democrats need to show that the world, it's stopping now. Because enough is enough, and we need to stop this. I will endeavor to work with all Democratic clubs who want to be involved in this process. It's a collaborative process in my mind. And I want to thank Director Kelly, who spoke so eloquently around the code of conduct in the California Democratic Party. But we can do more, and we need to show what we can do.
Any other members have any comments? want to thank again the people who came up to speak. I know it takes a lot of courage to share your truth, and no one is entitled to your story. So thank you to everyone who shared any bit of it that you did share with us. And it's extremely personal, very difficult, and very inspirational that you're able to have the strength to tell us your story, and I'm very much appreciative of that. I am also very much appreciative of the young people in this room who want to make a change. I wish that I had the same amount of courage that I did when I was younger, to do what you have been able to do, and to say the things that you've been able to say and push for change the way that you guys have been able to do it. And I want you to know that I'm with you. And I am fully committed to ensuring that this body and this committee is not for nothing. We will be doing something about this. Are there any more comments? Okay. With that, I'd like to take a break. Call a break, and then we'll continue with item number 4 when we return.
Do you
What?
Wait, you want to?